secret to a happy marriage is, I don't know. I think marriage itself is steady evolving. Again, I can equate it to football because once you know it's
Hey guys, and welcome back to Little Black Book. You know what time it is. Talking to you guys about Emmit Smith and Pat Smith, their recent divorce. And we're going to really dig into some real truths. We're going to go real back a few years, about 2016, and just kind of bring you back forward, just to get you to understand. As we said, we always talk about relationships on this channel, and you know, we want to always set the bar, which is to build, acquire, and repair relationships. Guys, if you're new to the channel, make sure to like, share, subscribe, click on the bell button for a notification of the uploads, and for those of you who are returnees, you got the minerals, you got the minerals. Alright, don't forget to join the mineral gang. Listen, we've got the new things, you know, mineral gang. So, just talking obviously about Emmit Smith and Pat Smith. I think obviously they recently divorced a few days ago as well, after celebrating as well the 20th year anniversary of their marriage. And so we wanted to kind of just talk about obviously how did they get here? Was there some clues to how they got to here? Was there some reasons as they got to here? Because officially when Pat Smith obviously released an Instagram post around the divorce or the separation, I should say, even between herself and Emmit, there wasn't much said in the way of why they're releasing, whether there was any infidelity, whether there was financial problems, whether there's just different irreconcilable views, whether it was to let the kids grow and then once the kids are grown then separate. We're not really sure, we're not really told as to why, but I want to take you all the way back to the beginning to bring you forward and get you to understand some things about relationships. So I've watched a few videos around this issue. I've done it all the last few days, and I've come across a few videos which I don't really agree with, but I have to take some level of truth from it. So some of the videos I've seen a lot from men especially are around how this is why you don't have to marry, marriage is not for us men, it's why marriage doesn't suit men, marriage doesn't benefit men, marriage is this, marriage is that, marriage is this. Hey, let me tell you something. Look, this is why when Christ brought marriage, or we should say instituted marriage, having God in the center of things, is so important. And I'm not saying that because actually, Pat and I believe Pat especially has stated obviously her being a Christian. But I want to say also as well, and she mentioned Christ Jesus as well. I just want to say as well, look, the reason why we get married is because Christ first obviously loved us. He reconciled us to the Father. And the Bible talks about in Ephesians 5 how, just as the man is the head of the woman, so is Christ the head of the church, the head of the body. Do you understand? And so we have to understand that marriage is something that is meant to recognize and actually mirror what God has done for us. In the fact that when God didn't divorce us, He didn't leave us, He didn't leave us to spare, He didn't let us die. He came and collected His bride. The same way we've also been collected as a bride. So, the Bible talks about how the Lamb, is waiting for His bride to come, the New Jerusalem, the bride of Christ. And so, in the same way, it's meant to reflect the relationship between God and man, okay? Those who are born again and a relationship with God. I think obviously with Pat and Emmit, I think once I went to do research, I just watched a few videos, I've got something, and I'm going to put it through here as well. It was very interesting to find out where certain little things may have contributed towards the cracks that finally sealed the deal. Okay, divorce is never easy. Divorce is not something that's pretty. Divorce is not something that's nice. Divorce is something that I won't wish on anybody because the process of going through it is soul destroying. And the Bible says two become one. Imagine tearing yourself in half. That's what you do during marriage. You tear yourself in half. And so I'd never want to wish anybody to be divorced from their marriage. Now, we go back to the very, very beginning. One thing I realized in most of the videos that when I was watching with Pat speak, because she was quite vocal about their relationship, and she's been quite vocal about the things that have happened within their relationship. So one of the things that she said at the very beginning was,
prior to my first marriage with Martin, my mother passed away with breast cancer very early, which really created a void in me that I didn't even understand until probably 20 years later.
And when her mother passed away, everything changed. She said she had a great relationship with her mother. Her mother was like her best friend. Her mother was so close to her. And when her mother passed, she was disillusioned with life. She didn't know where she was going, what she was trying to do, right? She put herself through college, graduated, etc., etc., and that was her mum's dream. And her mum got to see that before she passed. Now, the mum didn't just pass away like a die in a car crash or something like that. Her mum passed away being diagnosed with breast cancer. Now, I can tell you something from a personal point of view. having previously dated somebody who their mum passed, I can say that some people going through, especially for someone like with cancer, and which is a similar case for myself, not myself personally, but the person I was with at the time, that the mother going through a cancerous, illness, the person's being dragged through this emotional turmoil and battle that at the end, when the mother passes, there is this anger, bitterness, hurt, and this darkness and void. And actually, Pat speaks about this.
So my mother fought for about 5 years. She was diagnosed my freshman year in college. I was 17 years old. My mom was like that kind of mom that she's your rock.
She had a void in her heart, and she did everything to fill it up. And so when she then obviously meets Martin Lawrence originally was her first husband. And there's another thing as well. She's already been divorced once. And I think it's very interesting because once I started watching more videos, I started seeing more of the conversation about the issue with Martin Lawrence and herself. So she was quite young, and even when her mum passed, she was still quite young. And it was a short span of time before she met some people where she was searching for something to fill the void, which she said she found in Christ Jesus now. But she was searching for something to fill this void that she was feeling. And so
from that void, I started trying to fill that void because I didn't have a relationship with Jesus Christ, with things, people, whether it was ambition and goals or men.
Therefore now she meets Martin Lawrence, they get talking, but then I think they got together a little bit and broke apart, and then a mutual friend brought them back together again. Now here's the thing. She hadn't recovered from her mother passing. She hadn't grieved her mother passing. Everything was very, very quick. I think people don't realize this. Setting foundations are so key. And when people go through very traumatic experiences, how they go through it and how they come out of it is very, very important in terms of how they go and deal with future spouses in general, right? I said this in my other video where we're all broken in some shape or form.
Christ back then, to me, she was everything. So to have her taken away, I was broken.
Okay.
I felt broken.
It just depends how broken we are, all right? So, so obviously now she actually meets Martin Lawrence on a second go, and they get talking, and there's a connection that's instant. It's lovely, it's working, it's full, but she's still broken from her mum's passing, yeah. And so she gets into a relationship with Martin, and both her and Martin, as she described as,
we were in such bad places that it was mutually a very abusive relationship.
they are abusive, and then they're not in the best shape for either one of each other. Although there are sparks between themselves, there is obviously behavior which is not constituting to a healthy relationship. And so therefore, actually, the second time round when she got with Martin, as she was saying, it was within, I believe, a week, within a week that as meeting Martin, she was engaged. And then within 9 months, they were married. I want you to understand this as to why certain things happen the way they do. She got with Martin the second time round, got engaged within a week, okay, and then within 9 months married. Now, when I was watching an interview of her and Priscilla, the woman that did War Room, you can see that she was uncomfortable saying, because she, at her age now, recognizes some of the patterns of behavior which was not one of a mature person or someone who was whole at the time. And now you're looking back into it, you've got 2020 hindsight, looking at your behaviors, you're thinking to yourself in actions, maybe that wasn't the right thing to do. And you can see she's uncomfortable saying it, but she says us. And so within that, they, as I said, they were engaged within a week, married within 9 months. They, within a short period of time, I think it was within 3 months, she's then now impregnated with their child. So I want you to see how quickly things are happening. So when things are happening so quickly, there's no time to set the stall. There's no time to assess where we're going. There's no time to assess who am I. There's no time to assess what am I trying to do, what am I trying to achieve. And I think a lot of this that she was talking about, the Martin situation, a lot of it was about herself. She hadn't established who she was. Okay, not only that, she spoke about also trying to figure out where she was trying to go, because she had plans. She moved to LA because of Martin and everything like that.
Because I always wanted to host a show like you're doing. So proud of you.
Well, me and Oprah are on speed dial.
Because she's really got a heart to help. And actually, this is mentioned way in 2016 now when she's talking to Emmit. Yeah, and so obviously now, when she's talking to Emmit, there's a discussion about how she has dreams to help people. That's always been on her heart, all right? I love that. As a Christian as well, we want to be able to have that servant mindset.
you want to touch people's lives. You want to affect them in a mighty way. And I think you have the ability to do that.
And then obviously things don't work out between herself and Martin. It's abusive, it's not great. And you have to also think as well, what happens after you've come out of a relationship, number one? But what happens to you when you come out of an abusive relationship, number two? See, there's a depth of being able to lay the cement on the ground to build a foundation for the next place you're going to. But if you don't give yourself time, you don't give yourself time to be able to reset yourself and come into alignment with who you are and who you're trying to be and where you're going, and you don't give yourself time to recover from a broken heart, then what happens is then you tend to rush certain things, and then there is no foundation and things quickly crumble, okay? So when she speaks about how...
Right.
So our divorce was final in April. I literally met Emmett in May. Now, ladies, do not do this unless God, you know.
So what was happening was that her story was that, look, she had a therapist at the time after Martin. She was trying to get herself back on her feet, trying to really assess herself, and she was on a no man period. No men, no numbers, nothing, just me. Yeah, me and you now. I've been waiting. Okay, so anyway, so just a me and a her situation, right? And so when she does that now, she goes on a girls' trip. Now, she said herself, she's not looking for anybody. She was looking for, and in fact, if there was going to be a man, she wanted a man not to be high profile. Why? As she's seen previously already, and look, it's another thing that people don't realize, there is competition in these relationships, because when you have dreams and you believe your potential is bigger than what you're achieving, you're going to feel a competitive spirit when when a person in a relationship with you, okay, is doing big things. And actually, she mentions this in the Dancing with the Stars, where she saw Emmett and he was dancing with the stars, and she was like, you know, he's doing real estate, you know, he's doing this, doing that, he's doing so much, and she hasn't able to do anything for herself. There's a looking at oneself and going, what am I doing? What's my life? And we heard this with Aisha Curry. And see, many men who are red pill won't adhere and listen to what's actually being said, won't listen to what needs to be done, because there's a work that needs to be done. And if I can slow down enough as a male and actually go, what's wrong? You want to, and we see this with Emmett as well, talking to her about this, where she says she wants to do something. We see this in a show, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and they were talking about obviously their relationship, and talking about how, you know, she's now putting on a show, and on that show she wanted to, you know, help people, etc., etc. And he said, I want to help support your dream. I want to help push you forward. I want to help bring you to the foreground. And this is very, very important, because we're going to come back to this, but dealing with her mother issue, she says she only had dealt with this 20 years later. I need to understand this. She only just dealt with this the mother passing 20 years later. Therefore, you've been wounded and damaged and bandaged. You've put bandages over wounds that have never healed. So you've been actually going into this war of a relationship half beaten already. Yeah? Like, you getting into marriage, you need to be at your full strength, because going in half baked ain't gonna be the one. So back to what I was saying. So yes, obviously she's describing the fact that, you know, the fact that she got with Emmett so quick, she had started speaking to Emmett, and he made her feel so comfortable, so nice, so happy. And let me tell you something from my experience. So I also, like I said, my past relationship that I had, the partner also, I got with them like literally 2 or 3 days after they had kind of come out of a situationship, yeah? I literally started dating them not long after that. And I knew at the time, as soon as I did it, I said to myself, Coach, you know the person hasn't reset themselves. They haven't reset themselves. So if you do this, you're not setting the right foundation. But I said, no, let me keep going. The person's on it, let's go, right? Mistake. You lose 2-3 years like that. Yeah, she lost 20, right? I don't say lost because it was still good, but the foundation wasn't right. Yeah, because the person hadn't reset themselves. They hadn't gone to find out who they are, hadn't had time alone, hadn't been single, hadn't been on their own officially, you know what I'm saying? They hadn't done it. They had forced themselves into relationship to cover up the pains that they're feeling. So they're operating on half the level. Same with Pat. Okay? And so now we have a situation where she meets Emmett, and then I think it's within a short period of time, she said after he gave her number, because she don't want to get his number, she calls him a day after. They start talking, start getting together. So now, already, they start getting together. She said something which is really key. She said,
But I really just put him on too high of a pedestal. I made him Mr. Idaho, right? Mm-hmm. And he was really Emmett Smith, very human. And
I made him Mr. Idaho. I made him an idol in my life. And actually, I don't think she actually made him an idol. I think that all of us have a high esteem of our partner, that they should never do something. And when they do it, we realize that the image we had of them, it's not a false one. It's just that we realize they're human. Because everybody considers their partner almost to be like a god. Like, they would never do this type of wrong. They would never do this to me. And when they do that, it destroys the perfect image we had of that person. Do you feel it? And that's what actually happened to Pat. Image of what she thought of Mr. Idaho, Mr. Emmit Smith, was destroyed. Why? Because something that happened. He had slept with his ex-girlfriend and impregnated her. Now, take into account all the things that happened before they got married. You have to take this into account. All of these things that happened before they got married. Mother passing. Also, another thing I forgot, she spoke about her rejection from when she did a beauty pageant and not winning. And that, again, I'm going to link that back into how she has a desire and ambition. We've got the fact that she had a Martin Lawrence, the marriage and the divorce so quickly. Then meets Emmit and gets together with Emmit so quickly. Everything's so quick. And then he does this nasty, and I say nasty, then he does this mistake, which is breaking the image of her perfection of him, right? And I think she even mentioned about having, like, he had a father figure type of energy as well. So imagine now that father type energy breaks your heart. Daddy's little girl again is broken again. You understand? And what does that do to the mindset of the individual person now going into a situation? So now they haven't married yet, but they were together. He goes to the ex-girlfriend, impregnates her, and now you're gonna and then they went into therapy, and then they got married. I'm not sure how much time it was between them getting married, but all I know is that it was less than a month or so between Martin Lawrence and Emmit. Okay, and I can tell you that from experience, you didn't set yourself. She did not reset herself. She did not get time to start and be solo and be alone. She's never experienced it, and therefore this was a train wreck coming to happen. I'm saying that anybody who has gone from one relation to the next, if you don't take time to figure out who you are, you're in danger. Look, this happened 20 years later, yeah? And someone might say, wow, but it's because, you see, it gets to a point where you have to be real with yourself and say, whoa, I don't know who I am, yeah? Now let's get into the relationship aspect of things. So I watched a video where Emmit and her were talking, and she was saying, what can I do to be a better wife, right? And instead of Emmit turning around to face her and talk to her, he faces forward. Number one, that's rude. Number two, that's not good body language. Number three, if we're adults having a consensual conversation and you're paying more attention to your phone and facing away from me, you're not serious about this conversation, are you?
do to be a better wife?
I don't know.
What is important to you now?
Okay. Now, dinner is an important thing. To have dinner sometime between 6 and 7.
Are you serious about me? Like you wouldn't do, like, you see, if you start, you see, I just looked at it and I was like, this is wrong, right? It's not, like, in a relationship, you just don't do them kind of things, bro. Like, you have to turn around and have a conversation. Don't be planted in your phone. Don't be planted in something else. She's asking a very serious question. What can I do to be a better wife? And, first off, he starts with, I don't know. And then he goes into, cooking and da-da-da-da. And then he obviously says, like, which is, I can understand why he said it, but then it felt, I guess for her, it felt like she was being belittled. And you have to understand already, unbeknown to him probably, that she's still recovering from the loss of the mother, which probably then made her feel like she had to hide in the background. Then she's starting to realize actually she doesn't want to be in the background. And she mentions this in another video where she says,
I'm more of like the support staff to him.
Do you?
Basically, I'm just tired of being the house help. I'm tired of being this house help. I can do more. And so this is about ambition. This is about desire. This is about the fire that's in your bosom, okay? And that oftentimes what happens is if we quell the bosom, we quell the fire in our bosom to support another man's dream. So she's saying that basically I've given you 20 years. Or in that time it would have been 16 years, let's say. 16 years of my life where I've supported you in everything you've done, okay? I guess it's now time for me to step out. But here's the problem. The relationship maybe has never seen her step out. How does it look like? How do we operate? Where do we go? So you see that the conversation about him saying he wants dinner at a certain time may seem offensive to her because she's thinking about stepping out. To him, he's thinking about, well, we're already here. Like, we're already in a situation. We're great. We're good.
Oh, because once you know a system, and you've been in the system for over 5-6 years, there isn't too much more you can learn. It's kind of the same with marriage. we have to figure out ways to rekindle.
Good. Do you know what I'm saying? So there's a miscommunication there instantly. It may seem small, but it's not. There's another video where she's talking to, she comes in the room and she speaks to him and says, obviously, oh, you know, at the function, you didn't make me feel like I was visible, right? Going back to, again, wanting to be seen. Remember her original statements that she made with Priscilla in an interview where she was saying that, you know, she had plans to be a talk show host. This woman has plans to be at the forefront. Let me just be very honest. I don't think it's selfish. I don't think it's wrong to do so. It's just that she had a desire for this from time ago. A bit like Aisha Curry. When I listen to the history of Aisha Curry, I can see why. She had a history. She wanted to be at the foreground. Now, when she's pushed to the background, okay, it's annoying because now she's in the shadow of her man, Curry.
Looking for support and that kind of love. And so when I kind of get pushed aside, those little moments just kind of remind me that, okay, you're not getting it. You're not getting it.
I don't think Pat wants to eclipse her husband. I think what they do want though is some equilibrium in the amount of attention they get. I'm a person that also likes to keep it 100. Everybody needs validation, right? And in a relationship, when there's an equilibrium or an inequality in terms of attention, depending on the type of person you are, if you feel like you're not a background person, you're a foreground person. You love the camera, you love to be in front of it, you love to be a showman, etc., etc. You being in the background is going to help nobody in any relationship because eventually your true nature shows. Like, I can't pretend that I'm not about the camera life. I can't pretend I'm not about this YouTube life. I can't pretend I'm not about the public speaking life. I can't pretend I'm not a people's person. The moment I pretend to be a non-people's person, I can't be in public just for a relationship, that relationship's going to crumble. I guarantee it. So I cannot accept a relationship where the person will say to me, you can't be the public person. Because I'll say to you, it don't exist. It doesn't exist. Why? Because it's not me. And the difference between men and women here is this. When it comes to relationships, women are often expected to surrender. I surrender. Okay, so oftentimes there's an expectation which is hidden, not spoken, that is to surrender your dreams and your ambitions so that your man can fly. You understand? And that's where there can be an issue if the person has a desire and ambition. And so in 2020 now, where we're dealing with men and women now have the scope and the ability to go forth. Now, she mentioned something which is really interesting. In a previous relationship with Martin Lawrence, they signed a prenup. I don't know if she signed a prenup now. And again, and this is where I said that, you know what, I don't agree with the red pill community or the men who are speaking like this, but I do understand where they're coming from. They're looking at it going, hold on a minute. Martin Lawrence, you signed a prenup, you got nothing. And she said it herself, when she left the relationship, she just left with herself and her baby, nothing. But then gets with this gentleman, 20 years, and then divorces. But again, I look at it as this, the person gave them 20 years, but what's the point of divorcing just for money? Like, you know what I mean? Like, come on. But, you know, so, you know, with her situation, obviously, she didn't sign a prenup with Emmit, if I'm correct. Correct me if I'm wrong. I may be wrong. So, you know, she stands to gain. Now, again, you don't, but this is a second relationship, though. That's divorce now. You know, that's not pretty. I don't think anybody wants to gain that kind of reputation. So here's the thing, back to what we're talking about, the situation with the story. With the Pat situation where she really had a desire to be at the forefront and the foreground, we see that obviously when she's talking to Emmit in the office and saying that, you know what, and it was absurd, for me it was absurd, sorry. The mention that she made, the observation that she made, I said, this is crazy, like, what's wrong with you? Are you right? Like, come on, like, Pat, come on, get some sense. Like, she was saying that basically, that he walked ahead and she felt like she was being neglected. And he said, obviously, blood, I walked ahead to open the door. And we see the video, he walked ahead to open the door. Well, why are you getting stressed about him walking ahead to open the door? But that's not what she was talking about. Again, I don't agree with how she's made that as an observation, because that doesn't make no sense. You're confusing everybody. But when there's another clip where she's standing in the ground, standing in the background, and it's cut to her looking like a lonely figure.
Sometimes I got lost.
Couple times you got lost. When you get lost after that?
Lost in the crowd. And you just like left me. Walked ahead of me. And I'm just telling you how.
I walked ahead of you so I can go open the door.
And so what it's looking like is, you're successful, I'm not as successful as you, my name is not being made. And there's another comment that she made with Priscilla where, or it was also thingy, where she, it might have been Priscilla, someone else, but she said obviously, people often talk about
like who you're married to, what you do, what you've done. And a lot of times people forget about who you are.
And I realized, again, this is about her. It's about, and I'm not saying it selfishly, I'm saying in the sense of this need and desire to be about having attention for her. She needs it. She wants it. You understand? Like, she can't deny her nature no more. This is what she wanted from the very jump. And I'm not going to say that Emmit didn't support her, because we see in a clip, like I said, him trying to say he's going to support her. And actually, she said something which I thought was quite rude. And he made a joke of it, but I was like, hold on a minute. You should know how this feels. Like, how are you doing it? Where she said she was put on a show, and she said, oh, I want you to come as a guest. He was like, what, a guest? How about a date? He flipped it around, and she was like, yes, da 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 da. But then she said something. As he was talking, now remember, this is 2016.
Literally the first time I think I've ever heard you really communicate it that way and really show a care about what's important to me.
I want to see.
You know, that this is the first time she's really heard him communicate. And she's the word, I think, communicate. This is the first time I've kind of heard you communicate, you know, how you support my dreams and how you support my ambitions, my goals. And I was like, oh, snap. This is 2016, you know. This is the first, she's saying this. And listen, when people say this is the first time, it's not that you haven't said it. You know, like when you say, oh, you never say you love me. It's not that you haven't said it before, you know. It's the fact that you don't often say it enough for them that they recognize it as you saying it often enough. Like, I've heard my missus probably say to me, Coach, you're not very affectionate. You don't kiss me enough. And I'm like, oh, I thought I kissed you. No, for the other person, it's not that way. So then you realize that the person's not saying this, they're not literally saying this the first time. But she explains it saying, this is the kind of first time you've communicated this to me. So you see these issues are coming up now. And then you flip back to another video where he talks about the fact that you're talking about you being busy. You being out of your girlfriend's is not being busy. And she goes, oh, that was a low blow. And he goes, well, no, because I'm being real. Like, at the end of the day, you're talking about being busy. How is you being out of your girlfriend's busy? And I have to agree with him. How does you being out of your girlfriend's make you busy? But then she says, oh, being a mother is a full-time job. And she's right. Now, if she doesn't have no house help, then she's full-time. Let's keep it real. If she has house help that does the cleaning, the cooking, that ain't full-time, love. I'm going to be honest with you. It's not full-time because you're not doing most of the stuff. Most of the stuff that you would have to do, you've resigned it. Do you know what I mean? But he talks about the fact that was a comment that he made about her not being busy. And I believe that obviously for him also as well, her not being busy made her hands idle. And when they make her hands idle, he's thinking to himself, all the complaints that probably come in my way, it's because you're not busy. And do you feeling jealous of me being dancing at the stars, me doing this, me doing that? It's because you're not busy. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't blame me. I'm busy. And then he mentioned something which is really interesting. He said, you know, I've got nothing else to do. I'm going to come along. She was like, yeah, sure. So that yeah, sure was sarcastic in the sense of saying to him, like, you're saying that you don't have anything better to do, but actually you do a lot of things.
I understand. I'll be there for you, babe. You know, no big deal. I ain't got nothing else going on.
Oh, yeah, right.
Remember, she mentioned this in Dr. Phil's interview where she said, you know, he does this, he does that, he does this. And almost I felt a little bit jealous of him doing these things because it's like, I want to be doing my thing too. So you can see already there's a battle that's going on between desires. I want this, and I love that you're doing this, and I support you in doing this. And there's a point where, in another video, where she says, where she's talking about how she felt like she was being basically pushed to the background. And she mentioned this several times. There's an issue here. She's not seeing herself in the foreground. But she said something, and he goes, well, it doesn't feel like you're really supporting me. It doesn't feel like you're really supporting what I'm doing. Like, and I get what he's saying. Like, you know, you've brought this complaint to me about not being at the foreground, but actually, I've been bringing you in like the whole entire time. I've told you I'm going to support you in different things, and you're still trying to make me feel bad about the fact that I'm doing my thing. That don't make no sense for him and for her, because she's a foreground person, not a background. And I really believe that this book that she wrote, Second Chances, is an opportunity at the foreground. Why do I say this? I love the enthusiasm of when she's at interviews, when she talks about this book. And when I look at her doing these interviews with different people, when she talks about this book, there's a light, there's a glow in her eyes. And I tell you that is somebody who loves the camera. That is somebody who loves the foreground. That is somebody who doesn't want to be in the background. That is somebody who wants to be the life of the party, that wants to be the one that is known by what they do, not by what their husband do. There are a lot of women that are happy to be in the shadow to let their man shine, and they are going to collect the name and feel fine. And I don't have no problem with that. And there are some women that just refuse to stay where they are and say, I have to be at the foreground too, because there's things that I believe I can offer. There's things that I believe I can do. No woman is wrong for either position they choose to take. It's just about being able to adjust to either one and knowing what kind of woman you have. Now, what may have been a problem is that as Emmett's shadow was so huge, Pat may have thought, as I said to you earlier on, Pat would have seen herself as reclining to the shadows and supporting him, okay, like she says herself, so that he can shine and putting her needs way back. And so thus forth now we're seeing cracks coming out because she's refusing to stay in the position that she's in right now. And so this is what I say to you about relationships and gender roles. You need dynamism. You need to be dynamic because things can change in an instant. And I know that feeling, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I think this is why I love someone like YouTube, and I pray that I can take this so big and so wide because I think it allows me to have flexibility, not just in the things that I can do whenever I want to do it. I guess in terms of that, yeah, but the scheduling. And so that if something changed and my wife wanted to do something different or like, but I can be flexible. I can move and still make bread. You understand? Like, for me, that's huge. And so so I can understand Pat has his set things already. Emmett has set things already he's doing and he's going forth and prospering. And I think what was really interesting is that many people don't like to, obviously this was a few years ago, previously, it was 2016 an interview, so she said 7 years ago or whatever, or 6 years ago, where Emmett obviously, you know, had a situation with his baby mother, ex, and impregnated her. What kind of toll did that take on her? Now, she said obviously, oh, the fears kind of melted away and then we got married. And I was like, the fears melted away, babe. No, they didn't melt away. They got pushed back. Why? Because you already experienced too much pain with your mother. Now, she mentions this, how she was in pain with her mother, so much so she would do anything to get rid of it. I believe that she knew that this guy was a good guy, but the pain that she was feeling from the betrayal of him, and then her mum passing as well, was huge. And because she hasn't learned, and at the time, maybe she hadn't learned how to deal with pain and deal with the void of the pain that she has, where to put it, where to go with it, how to do it. A lot of people just do, as she said herself, put on a mask. And when they put on this mask, it allows them to be someone else. And so as you're being someone else, you're not being true to yourself. All right? And then something happens, which is really interesting. That that child is growing up. Emmett's got another child growing up. How does that make you feel? How does it make you feel that he's got another girl outside of you two, okay, that was during your time with somebody else? How does that affect your relationship? How does that affect you lot when that child is growing up? Okay, you have kids later on obviously together, but how does that affect you? All right, cool. And then we see obviously in a situation later on that when she's speaking about the situation of Dancing in the Stars, again, something very interesting happens. Insecurity kicks in. But I believe this insecurity is because something wasn't dealt with in the past. I think the way that she said, listen, and this is how deep the betrayal was, that he cheated and had another kid. She said, obviously, after the devastation of losing her mother, the second most painful devastation was him doing what he did. That should let you know the gravity of the pain that she felt when he did that. Now, has she let that go? Has she fully let that go? You can forgive, but have you fully let it go? Have you recovered? That's another question. Because remember, it was speed. You lot did speed into a relationship. From Martin Lawrence to him, speed. Had you taken time to fully recover from that? Because to say to me that it just floated away makes no sense for me. Yeah, I'm into relationships and I know that things don't float away. Yeah, I've been cheated on and I know that it didn't float away. It can take up from anywhere from 6 months to 2 years to recover properly from somebody cheating on you, proper, to stay in a relationship with them. I'm telling you. So this ain't a thing where it can just float, it floats away. No. No, I know they had the therapy at the time, but it doesn't float away. So again, I think there was an ignorance of that particular issue that happened. So then when Dance with the Stars comes along, it compounds everything. So this young...
For me, I had this motion picture thing going on in my head of Emmett and Cheryl in the ballroom having this steamy affair.
Girl, this young girl's dancing with her man, but it's just dancing. But she told him, listen, I don't want to see you lot doing coffees and this like that. Because why? She's afraid that you'll do something stupid. Why? Because you've done something stupid in the past. So now she has to put a leash on you so that you don't go anywhere. But it's the way she's reacting. Said, obviously, look, I didn't know. I was really overreacting. I was really reacting proper large. And you have to ask yourself, why were you acting so large? We act that large because we're acting out. Why? Because of a previous experience. Jealousy comes from previous experiences that are negative, and then we use that in our present day, and that because we haven't healed from it, then it becomes what we call extreme jealousy. Yeah? So, you know what I'm saying? Where you're feeling like you just can't take it. You know what I mean? And so in the end, she tells a beautiful story how the woman that was dancing to her partner actually became someone that they began to pray with every time they would go on the show. Ara, beautiful stuff. But again, had you dealt with the insecurity? Do you feel me? Have you dealt with the insecurity? I don't know if you have. I don't know if she had. All right, so I'm gonna leave it there. I don't want to talk to you. I think we've covered quite a few things. But the main thing, like I said, is I just believe that with Emmit and Pat, because Pat's only given her side of things, I can only go on what's been said and what videos have been put out there. I'm not blaming Pat for the breakdown relationship. What I'm saying is, did she set enough of a foundation for herself to really exist in this relationship? Because you look at 20 years and you go to yourself, raw, 20 years, so amazing, well done, and it breaks you, like, what happened? And the thing is, some people are struggling through that 20 years. Some people are hanging on to 20 years because they want to be able to provide a stable home for their children. And when the children are done, they can leave eventually. Some people, the 20 years, it's like, yo, it's an achievement, but then it gets to a point where you realize, I just can't do this no more. I can't hold on no more. You feel me? And so with Emmit and Pat, it's sad to see that they separate. Hopefully they can rekindle. You know, we don't have to end it. They don't have to think that it's over. Like, they can hopefully rekindle again. Maybe some time alone will help her. But definitely I believe that there was not enough time in the wilderness. Like Jesus said, 40 days and 40 nights. There was not enough time in the wilderness to decipher who is Pat Smith. Who is Pat? I should even say it's not even Pat Smith. Who's Pat? Who is this? Who is this person, Patricia? You know, who is this woman? What am I about? You know what I'm saying? Because she figured out her purpose. Because she said to Priscilla, and I think Priscilla was trying to allude to it, like, don't you think it was too soon? And she was like, and she said, didn't you think that you circumvented your process by going into a relationship with Emmit? And she said, Pat said, no, I don't think I've circumvented it. But actually, I think she has. I think you did circumvent it because you've gone too soon. Trust me, I know. It's like eating cake when it's not done fully. It looks good outside, but then when you get inside, it's runny. And then you eat it and it tastes still good. So you get 20 years and it's still good. And then you realize your tummy begins to run. 20 years are done and you realize, actually, is this really what I want? Again, I'm not blaming Pat. I'm just bringing out really a lot of things that have been said in their videos and stuff, where she's really pushed the narrative that she's been in the background too long. That tells me that there was not enough time spoken, there was not enough time deciphering who she was. Yeah, so when people are talking about hypergamy, hypergamy and hypergumu and hypergamo and hamagame, whatever you lot say, alright? It's not as simple as that. We're not talking about dating down. It's not as simple as that. You understand? You have to understand this, that relationships require more than just finances. And it requires more than just love. It also requires a dynamic ability to be able to adapt to new circumstances and situations. Do you feel me? So I really want to push you guys. If you've watched Emmit and Pat and you really love what they were about, it's not to just judge them and say, listen, you're the fault, you're the fault. You know, someone, and it's interesting because you get the red pill community versus the hypergamy community, and they're both opposite ends of the polarization of structures. And you look at both of them and go to yourself, they're saying, oh, you marry up. This person's saying, marriage is not for eligible bachelors. It's not married for bachelors or men who are successful. So if the hypergamy people are saying women should marry up, and red pill community are saying successful men shouldn't marry, where would you meet? You see, this is what I'm talking about, extremes. The extremes are too much. Fighting a happy ground. But listen, guys, I hope you like what we did. I wanted to make sure we talked in depth. Please like, share, subscribe. Please also leave a comment down below. Let us know your thoughts. What did you guys think? What was your kind of sentiment? What was your kind of diagnosis? Again, I'm not saying that Pat was at fault. Rather, I'm just stating there were some things that were said in the process of the situation. So, guys, make sure you like, share, subscribe. Click on the bell button for notification of the uploads, baby. We appreciate you. Stay locked, stay loaded. More love.